I want you to picture your liquor cabinet right now. Everyone has that one corner. You know the one. It's dark, it's a little neglected, and sitting right in the very back is a bottle that is almost certainly completely sticky.
Oh, yeah, the classic bottle of shame.
The bottle of shame, exactly.
Yeah.
It's been there since, what, a holiday party 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Or maybe you inherited it from a previous roommate. You look at it, you think, White Russian, you think maybe I'll pour that over ice cream one day, and then you just close the cabinet.
Right. It is the spirit that everyone owns, but I'd say almost nobody actually knows.
We are talking, of course, about Kahlua, and welcome to today's deep dive. Because looking at this stack of documentation we've brought in, I mean, we have product guides, official technical notes, historical data, and these massive libraries of cocktail recipes. And it turns out we have been massively underestimating this stuff.
We really have.
The mission today is to completely rethink that sticky bottle. It isn't just it's not just a sugar bomb for dessert. It's got specific chemistry, a surprisingly complex history, and some versatility that, frankly, sounds fake until you read the science behind it.
It really does change your perspective. And I think to start, we have to kind of strip away the marketing and look at the liquid itself. Because there's this huge misconception that this is just coffee-flavored syrup with some neutral alcohol thrown in.
Right, like a cheap vodka with artificial coffee extract and just a ton of corn syrup. That's the assumption I always made.
And that assumption is completely incorrect. The documentation here highlights that this is an agricultural product rooted in a specific place, which is Veracruz, Mexico.
Veracruz. Okay, so this isn't just a generic factory product being pumped out anywhere.
No, not at all. It's a product of its environment, what wine people would call terroir. It's made with two core ingredients that define that specific region of Mexico, and that's 100% Arabica coffee beans and sugarcane rum.
See, the rum part is what I think people forget. Or, maybe they never even knew. I was just assumed it was a neutral grain spirit base.
It's the most crucial part of the flavor profile. You aren't just drinking coffee flavor, you are drinking a rum-based spirit. That base spirit brings its own complexity. You get notes of molasses, brown sugar, a little bit of funk that interacts with the coffee. So it's not a blank canvas at all. It's a cane spirit.
So let's break down that flavor profile. Because if I asked a random person on the street what Kahlua tastes like, they'd probably just say sweet coffee. Maybe chocolatey. But looking at the official tasting notes in our source material, it's way more specific than that.
Much more specific. Obviously, you have the deep, rich, real black coffee. That's the headline. But the notes also highlight distinct hints of vanilla, sweet butter, and this is the one that really matters for mixology, later exotic spice.
Sweet butter was the one that threw me. I mean, I don't usually associate butter with my coffee unless I'm doing one of those keto diets.
It sounds odd, yeah, but think about the mouthfeel. It's viscous. It has that coating quality that feels fatty, almost like butter. But that exotic spice note, that is the secret weapon. That is the reason this liquid can do things you wouldn't expect coffee to do, which we will definitely get to in a minute. It bridges the gap between dessert and botanical.
Before we get to the drinking, though, I have to ask the question that I know you are thinking. It's the learner question of the day. If I decide to crack this bottle open at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, am I going to be staring at the ceiling all night? Is this essentially just an energy drink with booze?
That is probably the #1 myth we need to bust right now. We have the technical data here in the FAQs, and the answer is a pretty definitive no.
Really? Because it's made with real coffee beans. You'd assume it packs a serious punch.
You would assume, but let's actually look at the numbers. Kahlua contains about 100 parts per million of caffeine. Now, in isolation, that number doesn't mean much to anyone, so let's translate it to a glass. A standard 1.5-ounce pour of Kahlua has approximately 4.5 to 5 milligrams of caffeine.
5 milligrams. Okay, give me some context, please. What is a normal cup of coffee?
An 8-ounce cup of brewed coffee has about 200 milligrams. Even a standard can of cola has somewhere between 30 and 40 milligrams.
Wow, so it's not even close. A can of soda has, what, 6 times the caffeine of a shot of Kahlua?
Exactly. It's barely a blip. It is essentially flavor without the jitters. You are getting the aromatic profile of the coffee bean, the roast, the earthiness, but you aren't getting the physiological stimulant effect of a double espresso.
That is a massive game changer for the late night cocktail. I think a lot of people avoid it purely because they want to go to sleep. Now, speaking of that bottle in the back of the cabinet, let's talk about shelf life. Because I feel like everyone has a bottle of Kahlua that they inherited from a previous tenant or an older relative.
Right, the dusty bottle scenario we were talking about.
Exactly. Does it go bad? Do we need to keep it in the fridge once it's open? because mine is definitely not in the fridge.
You're safe. The official guidance from the product guides is very clear. No refrigeration needed. You just need a cool, dry place out of direct sunlight. The alcohol and the high sugar content act as powerful preservatives. As for shelf life, the recommendation is 4 years.
4 years is pretty generous. Most things in my fridge don't last 4 weeks.
It is generous. However, the notes do include a caveat that I think is really important for flavor chasers. The coffee impact actually fades over time. It won't necessarily make you sick if it's older than 4 years, but it won't have that pop. It loses the aromatic complexity and starts to just taste like sweet rum. So if you're holding on to a bottle from the 90s...
It's time to let it go. Pour one out for the 90s and go buy a new one.
Exactly. It's time to upgrade.
There are 2 other tech spec warnings in these notes that I found really interesting, specifically for people with dietary restrictions. One is about gluten and one is about vegans.
This is important. Regarding gluten, the science is on your side here. The distillation process generally removes cereal proteins, so distilled spirits are often accepted as gluten-free. However, the brand advises consulting a doctor if you're highly sensitive. It's a standard cover your bases warning, but generally it's considered safe.
But the vegan status, that was the real gotcha for me.
It's surprising, right? You look at the ingredients, coffee, rum, sugar. You'd think plant-based, we're good to go.
Exactly. I'd serve that to a vegan friend without hesitating for a second.
And you would be making a mistake, according to the official docs. The source explicitly states it is not vegan.
Why? Is there cream hidden in the standard bottle?
No, there's no dairy in the standard bottle. It's the sugar. One of their sugar suppliers uses a process that isn't considered vegan-friendly. It often involves bone char in the refining process to whiten the sugar. So while there are no animal derivatives added directly into the liquid itself, the supply chain makes it unsuitable for a strict vegan diet.
That is a crucial nuance that you just wouldn't find by reading the back label. It really shows how deep you have to dig for supply chain info. Okay, so we've got the specs as the classic bottle down. But scrolling through this product range document, Kahlua is not just one bottle anymore.
No, it's a whole portfolio now. And if you look closely at the release history and the source, you can actually trace the evolution of global dessert trends.
It's like a timeline of our collective sweet tooth. You've got mint mocha,
which is that classic winter holiday flavor profile, basically the Starbucks holiday cup effect in a bottle.
And then salted caramel. I feel like you can't exist as a brand today without a salted caramel version.
Right. It hits that salty sweet trend that has been completely dominant for the last decade. But the one that stands out to me as a real strategic shift, a real deep dive detail, is the blonde roast style.
Yes. This one looked completely different in the guide. The bottle is lighter, the branding is different.
Think about how coffee culture has changed. 10, 15 years ago, everyone wanted dark, heavy French roasts.
Charred beans. The stronger the better?
Exactly. But now, the third wave of coffee is all about lighter roasts, fruitier notes, higher acidity. You go to a fancy coffee shop today, and the espresso tastes like berries or citrus. The blonde roast style caters to that exact shift. It's described in the notes as having a citrusy flavor blend.
Citrusy. In a coffee liqueur. That feels almost contradictory to what Kahlua traditionally is.
That's the shift. It's made with 100% Arabica, but it's a lighter roast. And interestingly, it's 20% ABV, which is standard for them. But that lighter flavor profile opens up a totally different kind of mixing potential. It's not just for heavy winter drinks anymore. It's for spring and summer.
Then you've got the chocolate sips line. They have a smooth chocolate and a white chocolate.
Those seem designed for people who want something even more dessert forward. Less cocktail ingredient, more liquid truffle.
And we can't ignore the partnerships. We see a bottle here in the guide that says Dunkin'.
The Dunkin' Caramel Swirl Cream Liqueur. This is interesting because unlike the standard bottle, this one actually uses real cream. It's a direct collaboration, leveraging that massive Dunkin' fan base. It's approachable, it's familiar, it's basically a spiked iced latte in a bottle.
But for the serious coffee lovers, the ones who maybe turn their nose up at a caramel swirl and grind their own beans at home, there's something for them too in this portfolio, right?
Yes, the Kahlua is special.
It's special. It sounds intense.
It is. If you look at the specs, the standard Kahlua is usually around 20% ABV. The Especial bumps that up to 35%. That is a significant jump. It boasts a much richer, more concentrated coffee taste. This is for the person who wants the spirit to stand up against a lot of ice or other strong ingredients in a complex cocktail. It's less sugar, more power.
It's the espresso shot to the standard bottles drip coffee. And finally, for the designated driver, I saw a familiar-looking yellow bottle in the notes.
The Kahlua and Creme Coffee Mate. Non-alcoholic, just that flavor profile for your morning coffee, so they really are covering every single moment of the day.
So we have the liquid, we have the varieties. Now let's get into what we actually do with it. Because the source material here, these cocktail libraries are extensive. We have to start with the Holy Trinity, the classics.
You cannot talk about this spirit without talking about the espresso martini.
It is the drink right now.
Yeah.
You walk into a bar, you see 3 of them on every table. Why is it having such a massive moment?
It's the modern icon. It hits 2 functional needs perfectly: alcohol to relax and caffeine to wake up. The formula is beautifully simple: Kahlua, vodka, and fresh espresso. But looking at the images in our source, you see how much this has evolved over the last few years. It's not just the standard recipe anymore. People are hacking it.
Yeah, so one of the recipes called the salted Dalgona popcorn espresso martini
Which sounds like a chemistry experiment.
and a toasted marshmallow espresso martini. It just shows that people are using that base recipe, the bitterness of the espresso and the sweetness of the Kahlua, as a canvas for really elaborate creations.
And then, of course, there's the precursor to the martini craze, the White Russian.
The entry point for so many of us. Kahlua, vodka, cream, it's completely iconic.
It's very approachable, it's smooth, it's sweet, it hides the alcohol incredibly well, which is why it's often a learner's first cocktail. But the sources show some great variations here too. There's the frozen White Russian, which turns it into a milkshake, essentially.
And the Mexican White Russian.
Right, which typically swaps the vodka for tequila, playing into that Veracruz heritage we talked about earlier. Gets it a bit more bite, a bit more earthiness than vodka.
And we can't forget the mudslide.
Kahlua, vodka, and Irish cream. That is pure dessert. It's barely a cocktail. It's a confection. It's for when you want to drink your cake.
But then there's one that brought back some, well, slightly hazy memories for me. The mind eraser.
Ah, yes. The absolute party staple.
Seeing it in the official documentation was genuinely funny to me. Kahlua, vodka, soda water, and usually consumed rapidly.
Usually through a straw, yeah. It's a textural experience. The soda water adds effervescence to the heavy liqueur, making it dangerously easy to drink. It cuts the viscosity. It's designed for speed, not savoring, but it's a very valid part of the brand's history.
So those are the ones everyone knows. If you go to a wedding, you might see those. But here is where it gets really interesting. This is the part of the deep dive where I feel like we're going to blow some minds.
This is the Mixology 101 section.
I was scrolling through the recipe cards. I kept stopping and saying, wait, really? Because they are completely breaking the cream mold. We usually think Kahlua plus dairy, but the sources are pushing refreshing, citrusy, fizzy drinks.
This goes right back to that exotic spice note we mentioned earlier in the tasting profile. If you treat Kahlua like a complex botanical spirit rather than just a chocolate syrup, you open up entirely new doors.
Case in point, the Kahlua and tonic.
It sounds completely wrong, doesn't it?
It sounds like a mistake. It sounds like someone grabbed the wrong bottle in the dark at a party.
But think about the chemistry of it. Tonic water has quinine. It's inherently bitter. Coffee is bitter and acidic. The sweetness of the liqueur perfectly balances the bitterness of the tonic, and the bubbles lift the heavy coffee notes. It's actually a very sophisticated highball. It's lighter, it's botanical, it's way closer to a gin and tonic than a White Russian.
That is wild. And then there's Kahlua and orange juice.
This is the one that really shocks people.
Coffee and OJ. That sounds like a stomachache waiting to happen.
It's not as crazy as it seems. In the specialty coffee world, espresso and orange zest is actually a very common pairing.
That's true. I have seen that at cafes. These espresso romano with the lemon peel or those citrus cold brews.
Exactly. The acidity of the orange cuts right through the richness of the coffee. The sources describe it as tapping into those exotic spice notes. It creates a sort of tiki drink vibe, but without the rum punch. It's complex and strange, but it works because you're balancing bright acid against dark sugar and roast.
I also saw Kahlua ginger ale.
A mule-style variation. Ginger is a strong spice. Kahlua has spice notes. It's a natural bridge flavor. It's much lighter than a heavy cream drink, perfect for a hot day.
And for the cold brew addicts out there, the Kahlua cold brew soda.
That's simply Kahlua with fresh lemon and soda water. Again, lemon and espresso is a classic Italian pairing. The lemon peel oil brightens up the dark roast flavors. It makes the coffee taste fresher.
It just completely changes how I view the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought I need heavy cream or milk to make this work. But frankly, sometimes you just don't want a heavy glass of milk at a bar.
Exactly. And another great example from the source is the Kahlua Collins. You take lemon juice, gin or vodka, soda water, and Kahlua. These refreshing category drinks make the liqueur viable for a summer afternoon, not just a winter night by the fire. It basically moves the bottle from the back of the cabinet to the front.
But for the learner who maybe wants low effort, who isn't going to zest a lemon or buy artisanal tonic water on a Tuesday night, there are some really simple pours listed too.
Of course. Kahlua and milk is the foundational mix. Kahlua iced coffee is completely self-explanatory. And then there is the carajillo.
I've actually seen that name popping up on a lot of restaurant menus lately.
It's a very popular serve, particularly in Mexico and Spain. It's usually just the liqueur and espresso, sometimes shaken over ice to get a nice foam. It's simple, but because the ingredients are so bold, it really works. It's basically the espresso martini without the vodka to water it down. It's pure, concentrated flavor.
Now, we've covered the glass pretty extensively, but the documentation explicitly mentions that this liquid belongs in the kitchen too.
Yeah.
Beyond the glass.
Right. The note source highlights that edible applications are a huge part of the brand's identity and history.
Saw a recipe for an affogato martini.
Which is the ultimate bridge between a drink and a dessert. You're pouring the spirit directly over a scoop of ice cream. The cold ice cream freezes the liqueur slightly, making it really syrupy and intense.
And baking. Tiramisu is obviously the king here. If you're making tiramisu at home, you're almost certainly buying this bottle.
It is the king of desserts for this spirit. But the expert tip here in the documentation, and this is something home bakers should definitely note, is using it in chocolate cakes or brownies.
What does it actually do to the cake? Does it make it taste like a coffee cake?
Not necessarily. Coffee naturally enhances the flavor of chocolate. It makes chocolate taste more like chocolate. Adding Kahlua adds that rich coffee flavor, sure, but the alcohol also acts as a solvent for flavor compounds in the batter. The alcohol cooks off in the oven, and you're left with this incredible depth. It literally makes a cheap, boxed brownie mix taste like a premium bakery item.
That is a phenomenal tip, and visually there's nothing quite like the layered dessert shots, like the B52.
Coffee liqueur, Irish cream, and orange liqueur.
It looks like a science experiment. You see those distinct, perfect stripes of color in the glass.
It relies entirely on specific gravity. The sugar content varies between the three liquids. The Kahlua is the heaviest, so it sits right on the bottom. The Irish cream is lighter, and the orange liqueur is lighter still. If you pour them really carefully over the back of a spoon, they stack perfectly. It's a neat visual trick, but it also delivers the flavors to your palate in a sequence. First the orange, then the cream, then the dark coffee.
And the espresso martini affogato is in there too, just layering those rich textures. It really seems like the brand is encouraging people to play with their food, or drink in this case.
It's all about versatility. That's the recurring theme in all these documents we went through.
So what does this all mean for you? We've gone from a dusty, sticky bottle in the back of the cabinet to a citrus-pairing, baking-enhancing, tonic-mixing powerhouse.
I think the big takeaway here is to stop pigeonholing this spirit. We naturally think of it as a sweet mixer for grandma's holiday drink.
Right.
But the reality is, it's a complex spirit made from real agricultural products, Arabica beans and cane rum. It has almost no caffeine, so you can easily drink it at night without staring at the ceiling for hours. It lasts for years on your shelf. And most importantly, it mixes with things like tonic water and lime, not just milk and heavy cream.
That refreshing category is the real aha moment for me. I never, ever would have put coffee and bubbles together before reading this.
You listening, I'd say this is a masterclass in flavor pairing. Kahlua really demonstrates how 100% Arabica beans and rum create a base that completely bridges the gap between the morning brew and the evening cocktail. It doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't have to be creamy.
So here's my challenge to you. Next time you see that bottle sitting there, don't think milkshake. Don't think White Russian. Think citrus.
Be bold with it.
Grab some tonic water or even some fresh orange juice. Try the Kahlua and tonic. See if it changes your mind about what a coffee liqueur can actually be. You might just find your new favorite drink right there in the back of your own cabinet.
It's definitely worth a shot.
Thanks for diving into these sources with us. We'll see you on the next one.